is in the house, and he's going to be talking about the Academy for Creative Enterprise, the rules of thumb. And rule of thumb number 9, use multiple suppliers, and why you want to be able to use multiple suppliers whenever you're doing your business. And so we're going to bring Kurt in. So if you've got Kurt available, let's go ahead and bring Kurt in. And Kurt, thanks for being with us, and take it away.
Good to have you back for another Rules of Thumb for the Academy of Creating Enterprise. Let's talk about using multiple suppliers and why that is so important. This is number 9, using multiple suppliers. As we get into those rules of thumb, we say it every time. Get started. Let's grow your business, expand your business, and always giving back, helping out, making the world a better place. So how important is this? It's critical. That's why it's a rule of thumb, because you can't put, as they say, all your eggs in one basket. You cannot rely on just one person. They could be great people, good friends, but you never know what happens in the future. So do you have multiple suppliers? Do you need more suppliers? So let's do that case study. Gwen, who has successfully run a small fruit stand in downtown Cebu for about 10 years. Her customers are very loyal to her. Some visit her stand daily to purchase fruit for their families. In a similar attitude of loyalty, Gwen has purchased her inventory from the same supplier since her first day of operation. But at the start of this year's summer season, Gwen's wholesale supplier suddenly decided to raise his prices. This left the retailers, including Gwen, in a tough position. They seemed to have only 2 options. They had to either increase their prices to continue to make a profit on each sale or shut down their businesses. Gwen really enjoyed her business, so she chose to increase her prices. She insisted that because her supplier had taken care of me for so many years, she felt like she had to be loyal to him. Her unfounded sense of loyalty and her failure early on in the business to find multiple suppliers eventually cost her the business. So what did we learn from Gwen's example? She was loyal to a friend. That's a great thing. But maybe it wasn't her friend's fault, but it still happened. You have to have options. Loyalty can be a great thing. You want to stick with those people that have taken care of you, but you always have to have those options, looking at multiple suppliers, because you don't know what's going to happen in the future to your current supplier, a current merchant. You have to look towards the future. So let's check out another video from YouTube. This is going to be Tom Painter, the founder of successandmoney.org. He's always been a founder and supporter of the Academy of Creating Enterprise. Let's check out what he has to say about using multiple suppliers.
Use multiple suppliers to get the best price. Also, with the supply chain issues, you need to be able to supply and have multiple groups be able to get you product, because if you don't get the product, things go bad. In the car business, they had whole lots of cars that were built, but they were missing some components, some electronic components, a $30-40 piece of hardware that ran that truck, and they couldn't sell they had a $40,000 truck, $50,000 truck sitting on the car lot because they couldn't get that last piece. So you need to have multiple suppliers that can get you what you need.
Great words of advice. Let's dig a little deeper. Let's look at an example here of the Ford Motor Company. They did the same type of thing. They're a huge company, but the small companies, especially entrepreneurs, tend to make this mistake. This is what happened. In the early 20th century, Ford Motor Company had an exclusive tire supply agreement with Firestone Tire and Rubber Company. This meant all Ford vehicles, all of them, had to have these Firestone tires. Then Ford was releasing cars with these Firestone tires, and these tires were plagued with numerous problems, including tire blowouts. They were faulty, and all the cars had them. They found out that Firestone tires found to be a contributing factor in these problems they were having with the tires. And remember, every single car had these tires. They didn't think it was a problem. It was great in the past. Who knew this was going to happen? That's why you have additional relationships, different suppliers, different merchants that you can work with, because you never know what the future holds and you need to have options. And what happened with Ford? They barely survived. The sales went down, they had to discontinue some of their car models, it tarnished their image, all because they weren't willing to diversify, finding others that could be there just in case, or others that they can use right now to reduce costs and increase competition. So let's get into some of that expert advice. Jamie had an experience many years ago that taught him the importance of having multiple suppliers and using his power as the buyer to demand good service. Jamie used to purchase a large amount of medical equipment from one supplier. The supplier treated Jamie fairly. However, his customer service was poor. When Jamie had a mechanical problem, Jamie had a feeling that the poor service was a result of the supplier's belief that he had all of Jamie's business. So one day, Jamie called 4 other suppliers and asked each supplier to meet him at his store the following Friday morning for one-on-one meeting. Jamie posted the names and the appointment times of the competitors on each blackboard behind him in such a way that each salesperson could see the competitors' names behind Jamie as they spoke at the desk. When Jamie's main supplier came in that afternoon and saw that Jamie had spoken with the supplier's competitors, the supplier quickly understood the message that Jamie expected him to continually earn Jamie's business. So, as we talk about that, what benefits can Jamie receive by making the decision to have multiple suppliers? Well, when someone has to earn your business, they're going to make sure they take care of you, they return your calls soon, you get the best deals. They don't want you going someplace else, and they'll bend over to keep you. Like in this example, Jamie's supplier just expected to have that business. No, they needed to earn that business. And what do you think of the way he used his power as the buyer? Well, I don't know. It depends on your situation and what you are doing, but definitely he created urgency, scarcity, let his supplier know that he means business. Look, you've got to change, and you should be meeting with these people anyway to not just show your current merchant that you can go elsewhere, but maybe consider them to do it. So you have to decide if that's your style or not, but he definitely showed his supplier how important the relationship was and what they needed to do. So as you look at different merchants or suppliers, people that you need to purchase from, here's some things to think about as you go through this. Now, we just talked about the power you have as a buyer using multiple suppliers, but let's talk about what you're looking for. Just because they're there doesn't mean you should be doing business with them, but here are a few things you should be looking for. So always consider the supplier's price. Always important. Is that the most important thing? Probably not. If you're getting the cheapest, is that what you want to be selling? Maybe in your situation. It depends on what you're selling or retailing. So obviously you want to find a supplier with quality materials and goods that you can take and still sell at a reasonable price. So price is important. It's only one of the elements that you are looking for. The next one is reliability. You need to make sure if you need it on the 5th, it's there on the 5th. If they say they're going to be there by 5 o'clock, they're there by 5 o'clock. If they say they're going to have it in stock, they need to have it in stock. Are they reliable? What have you heard? What are other people saying about that? Are they reliable? Will they keep their word? Can they deliver every time they say they're going to deliver? Then, as you look at price and reliability, you want to make sure speed of service. They might have great price, it's very reliable, but if it takes 6 months to get it, that's probably not going to fit in what you're trying to do with your business. So the speed of service, that's from picking up the phone, talking to you, returning your phone calls, returning your emails, returning your texts. Does it arrive when they say it's going to arrive? That's all speed of service and reliability. Next one's going to be delivery costs. This could make a big difference. Is it coming from your same city, across the country, another country on the other side of the world? Those are going to have very different delivery costs. You might get it half priced on the other side of the world, but it might be too expensive to get it to you. So delivery cost is definitely something else you look at. Then, of course, trustworthiness. Are they trusted? Are the people using them? Do they feel they're trusted? What's said about them in the community, on the internet? When you talk to them, do you feel like you can trust them? And that's critical for a long-term relationship. You want a supplier that you can trust, that you never have to take a look at what they say or what they promise. You believe them because you trust them. And final one, depth of inventory. Remember that if a supplier can't meet the needs of your business will not be able to meet the needs of your customer. That's important. So their inventory. Is it always going to be available? When they say it's going to be there, is it seasonal? Is it there? Do they have plenty of inventory that anytime you can call up and get what you need? That's depth of inventory. So that's the final point. Always consider price, reliability, speed of service, delivery cost, trustworthiness, and depth of inventory so you can get and maintain a long-term relationship. So how do you do this? How do you find multiple suppliers, create that network of suppliers and people that can help you out? The first thing is come to your internal network. You can leverage your existing connections, family, friends, other entrepreneurs, industry professionals, ask for referrals, recommendations. Find out just from your network what they've heard, who they use. You can ask your competition if you have that type of relationship, or go into their place of business and see what they're buying. And there might be only one place they can buy that type of thing, or two places, or three places, but that lets you know that you have options. Ask your network, ask your competitors if you can. Go to their location, observe. That's one of the first things I would do. The second one is you have online resources. There are plenty of platforms around the world where you could search for suppliers by category, location, or any other criteria. And then if there's multiple suppliers there, you can compare their prices. What are people saying about doing business with them? Read those reviews. You can request quotes from different suppliers. That's a great place to look. You can look at social media and professional networks in your area. And you can always use online search engines to find what you need. Next one, attend trade fairs, expos if it's in your country, in your area. Great opportunities to meet suppliers in person, build relationships, negotiate deals. I mean, for example, if you're in the food industry, there could be a food service trade show, and you could connect with a lot of different suppliers, get a lot of different information from just basic ingredients to all the way to packaging. Another one to think about is local chambers of commerce. They're called different things in different countries. It's just an organization that supports local businesses. Most countries have those. You see, these local chambers of commerce can provide valuable resources, connections to suppliers in your region. Another one is to join industry associations. They all have directories of suppliers that can provide networking opportunities. So if you join a regional industry association in your business sector, they'll have a verified list of suppliers. They have great events you can go to, and they all provide different ways to meet potential suppliers. So by using these strategies, you can find multiple suppliers. It doesn't matter how small your business is, what type of country you live in, but you always need to diversify your suppliers and build as many strong business relationships with other suppliers as you can. So once you know that, let me add one thing to that to always consider. When you're looking at suppliers, what do you got to do to have a long-term relationship? And they can see it's going to be a mutually beneficial partnership. You're doing your due diligence, we talked about. You're researching them. You look at the reputation, quality, and even the pricing. And start small, just test. Test a little bit here, a little bit there. You can start with a small order to see if they meet all your criteria. With that, let's take it to a fable, The Weaver and the Storm. In a busy market town, there lived a weaver named Laura. Now, Laura was renowned for her great products, her fabrics, her silk. However, Laura had a peculiar habit. She sourced all her silk from a single merchant, believing his to be the finest and most reliable. One day, a fierce storm ravaged the merchant's ship, destroying the entire silk shipment. Laura's livelihood depended on that one single source, but that source was devastated. Her looms fell silent, her orders went unfulfilled, and her reputation began to suffer. A wise old merchant, observing Laura's despair, offered her some advice. "My dear," he said, "it is unwise to place all your eggs in one basket. Just as a wise farmer plants a variety of seeds, a wise merchant should diversify their suppliers." Laura, taking the old merchant's advice to heart, began to seek out other silk merchants. She discovered that while some merchants offered higher quality silk, others offered more competitive prices, and still others offered unique colors and textures. By diversifying her suppliers, Laura mitigated the risk of future disruptions. If one supplier faced a setback, she had alternative sources to rely on. She could also leverage competition to negotiate better prices and explore a wider range of options. Laura's business thrived once again, her looms hummed with activity, and her fabrics more vibrant than ever. Just as a balanced diet requires a variety of nutrients, a successful business requires diverse merchants and suppliers. Of course, the moral: relying on a single supplier can be risky. When you diversify and find other suppliers and merchants, you reduce risks, you're more flexible, and your business can be more competitive. So what's the homework? All right, make a list. Go through what we talked about. Find some potential suppliers. Then once you have that list, do the research on each one, and then decide, make a goal. I suggest at least one contact a week. I know you're busy. It could be more. You could do it all at once, or at least one contact a week to start developing that relationship, to see what they have, to see if you can use them as a potential supplier or merchant. So there you have it. That is the rule of thumb using multiple suppliers for the Academy of Creating Enterprise. You know what to do. You do your homework. You make it happen. Become more successful. Change your life and change your family's future.